Now that we finished up our first application, I want to give you a quick overview on how this course is structured. Now, as soon as I say that, you might be looking for the skip button and trying to skip over to the next video. But I beg you, please stick around, just watch this video. I'm going to make it as short as I possibly can. It's really important you watch this video because it's going to really frame how you approach and learn TypeScript. So let me just dive right in so I don't waste any time. All right, so when we think about learning the TypeScript language, there's really two distinct categories of knowledge that we need. On the one hand, we need to understand the syntax and features of the language. So for example, we need to understand what an interface is. Where do we use an interface? How do we use it? And we also need to understand the syntax for defining an interface as well. So that's kind of like one category of knowledge we have to pick up. The other category of knowledge we have to pick up is design patterns using TypeScript. So it's not enough to just know what an interface is. I want you to understand how to use an interface to actually write some amount of reusable code. This is the big focus of this course. This is what I really want to focus the entire course on. I want you to understand design patterns. At the end of the day, the official documentation is actually pretty strong for TypeScript, and you could understand some basic syntax and features pretty darn well by reading that documentation. So because of that, that's why I want to focus on design patterns. So why am I telling you this? Well, to be honest, the course you're watching right now, I've been working on for about 6 weeks. Like 6 weeks of full-time work, I've been working on this course. And I've recorded about a total of 20 hours of content for this course up to this point, like in the last 6 weeks, and I've thrown it all away. Why is that? Well, I tried to initially design this course to focus 100% on design patterns and just pick up some syntax and features along the way. And it turns out, after all these 6 weeks of time working on this, it just doesn't work to pick up TypeScript in that fashion. Honestly, the most effective way to pick up TypeScript correctly or very quickly is to first focus on the syntax and features with some kind of like dry, boring lectures, and then start to focus on the design patterns. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to focus on the basic syntax and features, and then start to move on to some projects where we're going to focus on understanding design patterns. Now, the reason I'm showing you this and I'm telling you all this stuff is that in the coming videos, as we start to focus on syntax and features, some of them are going to be honestly kind of boring. I'm going to make it as interesting as I can, but when we are just talking about plain syntax, we have to work with like tiny little toy examples that just don't reflect the real world a lot of the time. So I would love to skip over this stuff. I would love to just ignore syntax and features, but we have to do it. Just unequivocally, you have to understand the syntax. So we're going to blaze through this stuff as quickly as we can, and then we're going to move on to the design patterns, where we're going to be working on a bunch of projects that will really show you how to leverage TypeScript to write reusable code. All right, so having said all that, as we're going through these early sections around syntax and whatnot, if you're getting bored, totally fine. Just skip ahead and go take a look at some of the projects. If you start working on a project and you realize, oh my gosh, I've got no idea what's going on here, you can always go back and take a look at the lectures on features and syntax and whatnot. Okay, so thank you for sticking around. If you did, let's take a pause right now. When we come back in the next video, we're going to dive into our first kind of features and syntax style lecture. So I'll see you in just a minute.